Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vampire the Masquerade Independence. Tonight, Cross has arranged to meet with his childer Jorgen and his adopted daughter Eve at an old uh, dormitory for the local local college. It is here that he intends to teach them a thing or two. And on this particular night, the clouds are parted and there's stars and a full moon in the air. And this particular dorm isn't currently in use. So the parking lot is empty. There's no sounds coming from inside the building. Currently, Cross is wearing his trench coat and um, almost all black business suit underneath. As he stands just outside the front door waiting for Eve and Jorgen to arrive.
Eve will, Eve will come up, like, after a while. She'll be walking, obviously. She doesn't have a car or anything yet, but she's actually considering getting a motorcycle now that she's getting to be friends with Eddie. But, not something she's going to tell Cross. She kind of looks around. She looks a little bit confused as to where to go, and she's, she heads towards the dorm and kind of checks around to make sure nobody's, like, there that, like, other than Cross. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. After a while looking around, you see other college kids, but they're much further away. They're mostly crowding around one of the dorms. That's a bit away. Like if you were to yell, chances are they wouldn't hear you. But you can't. You can clearly see the dorm that they're hanging around, and you can hear from where you're standing the music blaring out one of the windows. And there's a few college kids outside holding drinks.
Eve rolls her eyes at this and kind of hops on past. She's kind of, again, she's still looking for Cross kind of eagerly. And she's actually wearing a black leather trench coat herself tonight with, uh sort of a, I don't know how to put it other than like a black bra with a fishnet shirt over that, black pants and boots. Under the trench coat, of course, is her gun, but it's not seen. And she'll still look around for him, poking her head in different rooms.
Well, Cross is standing right outside, so if you went in,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Well, if he's standing outside, she walks right up to him. Hi, Daddy. She kind of rocks on her feet.
he, he'll look her up and down, and as he does so, his glasses slip a little further down his nose, and uh, he uses one finger to push them back up and says, "Can't even dress discreet, can you?" Though the tone in his voice isn't stern, it's a mix of stern and playful.
Dad, this helps me hunt. I mean, look around. It's not the, 80s anymore. Or 1800s. She grins.
And he'll just cant his head then. He'll say, "You might find a tank top works just as well. And it may actually stop other people from looking at you and thinking that the person is trying to pay you for sex, which could draw the attention of authorities."
Well, I didn't think about it.
He's like, "I know. That's why I'm just sharing my wisdom with you.
Evil nod and kind of look around and go, college. Not something I planned on.
About this time, Jordan will come walking, actually, from the center of campus with a couple books under his arm, wearing his classic suit and tie, um, as well as a portfolio tucked underneath in between two of the books. Um, he was running a little late due to business meetings due to the startup of the school. Surprised to actually see students so quickly. As he approaches, he holds up his free hand in recognition as he makes his way over.
Cross will give a wave to Jorgen and just wait for him to approach. Close the distance between them.
As Jorgen approaches, he's like, "Greetings, sister. So good to see you up and moving again."
It's good to be up and moving again. How have you been, Jorgen?
Pretty good. Pretty busy. A lot of paperwork goes into this. Shakes his head a little bit. But I think it'll be worth it in the end.
More than likely. Still don't envy you, though. I hate paperwork.
He chuckles a little bit at this and turns across. Lord Cross, how does your night go?
So far, so good. Things have been progressing quite nicely. Now, I decided I wanted to spend a little time with the two of you. Perhaps share some of my knowledge with you that could help you last a little longer in this city.
Well, that's always appreciated. What do you got in mind?
It's like, well, later on I'm going to teach you how to use that gun.
She'll nod and go, sweet.
And he goes, and he'll just say, but for now let's talk inside. And with that, he'll turn around and pull a key out of his pocket and unlock the dorm before letting them in.
Jorgen will motion for Eve to go first as he rearranges the books underneath his arm, try to find a more suitable position for them.
She'll bounce along after, or behind Cross.
And as after they're both in, he goes in and closes the door and deposits the key back into his pocket. And he'll turn to both of them and say, at this current time, this dorm is completely empty. We're the only three in here. And I thought this would be the best place for you to set up a chantry. And he turns and glances to Jorgen. So, since you mentioned wanting to start up in this college.
Jorgen nods.
He's like, unfortunately, you do not own this building, but that doesn't mean we can't arrange for you to have complete control as to who is allowed in and out.
He'll look across and nod his head again. Well, that would be very useful, especially in setting up a chantry. Make it safer for those who are finding haven here.
Indeed, it would. And you'd say, what we can do is we can have you guised as a student, but that may not last much longer than 10 years. Because after that, you wouldn't remain a student here, would you?
True. So I was going to look more into the business end of things and just take over, giving me free reign of the school. Being a student first probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
And he would nod and he would say, that's more or less what I was going to suggest you do. Start as a student, and use that time to worm your way into the inner workings of the staff of the school. Mostly what you're going to want to do is find the person in charge of putting students in dorms. And you're going to want to ghoul this person. Until you have that position, you need to have complete and utter control as to who is allowed in and out of this dorm.
He nods and thinks for a moment. Well, wouldn't that be the dean's job, or I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out all the inner workings.
That may very well be the case. And then he would sign and say, unfortunately, this is Texas, so there's no basement to this building. Said, but there might be an attic, and that might be a suitable place to set up or hide anything that mortals shouldn't be seeing, in case a mortal does come in here. Besides, you may want a few around for feeding. And he'll guide the two over to or into the main room and up the stairs to one of the dorms. And he would say, though you could more than likely pass out here during the day. So tell me, what major problem do you see?
Jorgen looks around and, well, the windows would have to be redone.
He goes, because that would let in light, wouldn't it?
Yes. And then other than security breaches from mortals thinking that they are better and need to play a prank at certain places, I can't think of much else.
He goes, well, what if I told you there was a ritual that would prevent any light from entering from the sun?
It would definitely make it convenient if you could do that to any room needed by needed to be used by one of us.
He would say, there is such a ritual that will allow you to do that. And he would look around saying, I would highly recommend that be the first thing I teach you. If you're interested in learning.
Jorgen will nod at this. Well, yeah, if it's to improve the chantry, I mean, it would make sense.
And he would take a brief kind of glance around and say, how big would you say this room is if you had to guess?
Standard dorm room, maybe 16 by 16.
I was thinking 15 by 15, but we could both be wrong, or we could both be right on the money. But in either case, it's less than 20 feet in any direction. And it says, he would just smile at that, and he would say, the ritual I'm going to teach you wards a 20 foot by 20 foot by 20 foot square of space. Or a sphere with a 20-foot radius. Either way, it would completely encase this room.
And how long would this room stay viable for living conditions during the daylight hours?
Well, it lasts as long as you stay within the area. You'd have to do this every time you go to sleep, but the room would remain warded until you woke up.
He nods at this. So it'd be more useful as a personal, but if need be, we could bring others into the room?
Yes. And when you start to get kindred of your own in the city, you could teach this ritual to them.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Especially if it's simple enough for a beginner like me to learn.
And with that, he reaches under his jacket and he pulls out an old, like a bag that you throw, a messenger bag. I almost forgot what they were called. He pulls out this messenger bag and he sets it down on the floor and he opens it up, and inside you see all different tools used for rituals. And he proceeds to show you how this ritual works. And this takes about an hour for him to fully demonstrate. And even though Eve is watching, most of the terminology he's reciting to Jorgen is just going right over her head.
And while he's doing this, Jorgen, being classic Jorgen, pulls out a notepad from his inner vest, setting down the books, and starts taking notes on it. Just quick little scratches here and there as he watches and takes down movement and nuances of the actual ritual, so he can refer back to his notes later.
And it's like, af during the ritual, he used a little bit of his blood, and he made a symbol where it was hard to see on the door and by the window. They were in spots that was really hard for you to see. Like you would have to, for the door, he actually opened the door and stuck his finger under the bottom of the crack, and you saw him move his hand to draw a symbol. And he, the second time he did that symbol, he made it on a blank piece of paper to show you what he did. And he goes over and he does it around the window. And once he's done, he'll take a deep breath and say, "That's all there is to it." The symbols will fade when you leave the room.
Well, that's neat. No cleanup involved. Always useful.
Like, the second thing I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you a simple ward. And there are multiple different wards, but I think at your current level, I think this might be the only one you're able to get. And he starts to try to explain it to you, and how high is your thaumaturgy rank?
1.
A lot of the concepts he's suggesting go right over your head. Like, some of these concepts you didn't even think were possible. And he's talking about advanced formula, or at least more advanced than you currently are at this point.
Despite this, Jordan will still try to take his notes as best as possible, and you can definitely tell that he's not quite grasping it, but the fact that he's writing it down means he's going to be researching it later. As he did whenever he gave him a project.
Yeah. When he sees this, he's like, "All right, I can see that's a bit much for you to take in all at once. So we can finish that lesson at a later time when you have less on your plate." And he would nod. Sorry about that. After this, he'd look over to Eve and he'd say, "Now, as for you, the way I showed up late, and I saw what had happened to you, and I don't want to see that happen to either of you. So he would motion over to Jorgen and say, "Jorgen and I are both Tremere, so getting in close is something that we rarely ever have to do." And to stress this point, Eve is lifted into the air, and he hasn't even moved.
Eve kind of flails a little bit.
Jordan cringes a little bit, knowing quite a few times that lesson was taught to him whenever he messed up.
Out of character. I could have seen him doing this to her as a kid. So, she's having fond memories. She had a very different time with Cross than Jordan seems to have had.
And Cross just kind of looks inside the room, and she's moved around him, but her facing always like she always remains facing him as he moves her, and then he just sets her down.
Yeah, I know, Dad, you're a show-off. She grins.
And he would just smirk and say, "So, you may have to get in close, and I know Torador can be very persuasive, but that may fail at certain points, and it may fail when you need it to succeed the most. So, I would like to teach you how to shrug off damage."
Well, that would come in handy, because last time I nearly got cut to ribbons.
And he would just smirk at this and say, "Well, for me to teach you this, you're going to need to take some of my blood."
This is becoming a common thing.
He'd roll his sleeve up and hold his arm out to her.
She'll walk over and almost obediently sink her teeth into his arm.
Alright. And, how many blood points do you take?
1 or 2.
Okay.
Considering the other night, this means she's 3 steps blood down if she takes 2. Correct?
No, you can only be bound by 1 step per night.
Ah, okay.
So even if you took blood from him at 5 separate times in one night, if you weren't bound to him at all before, you're only 1 step bound to him after that. Even if there was an hour between each feeding.
Okay.
So you take that blood, and he's like, right. Now, he looks like he doesn't really want to say this, but he says, "I'm going to have to hit you."
But that actually strikes a chord with her.
Hmm?
That'll strike a chord with Eve.
And he says, "It's to train your body to toughen up."
Alright.
And he doesn't actually want to hurt her, so I'm not using his full dice pool.
Thank Lord, because...
Well, he's not even he's not much of a melee character, so I don't think he would do all that much if he was using his full dice pool. Besides that, you're a vampire, so you're only going to take half of any damage he does anyway.
Okay.
And you can spend 1 blood point to heal up.
Oh. He misses?
Apparently. I'm going to say he took a swing, but he didn't really want to hit her, so he pulled his punch too much.
Okay. Well, that.
Like it was still a strike, but it wouldn't have hurt Immortal.
How do I roll to punch him?
Strength or Dex plus Brawl.
Oh my god. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And she goes, "Come on, Dad, fight me." And she punches the shit out of him, apparently.
Oh my god, look at that.
I'm sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even though you have 5 successes, you round down 4. Divide by 2 because it's bashing damage. That's 2. He shrugged off 1 point.
So it's still only 1 point.
Yeah. It's like... Oh, second. It's like, okay. You can tell he doesn't want to do this. I'm just going to increase his dice pool by a little bit.
Poor baby.
Alright.
Eve decides if he actually hears, she's gonna.
What?
Because Eve is starting to get the feeling that if he's gonna actually hit her, she's gonna have to piss him off. So she gets closer to him and she says to him, "Oh my god, I don't know what she's actually gonna say to him because I don't know what I can do because I'm like feely." She'll actually look him dead in the face and say,
Yes.
I don't know, shit, like, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm bad at taunting and it's like a character I care about, so I'm like, shit. Eve's having a hard time taunting him, but she finally kind of musters up a kind of a... I'm sorry. Pathetic. You're supposed to be the man of the family. But you act like you have more of a pussy than I do. The fuck? Hit me, Cross. Do it. And she would never call him Cross.
And this is a different role.
Well...
Self-control.
Shit.
Yeah, having a -2 to your self-control rolls. It helps. Okay. I mean, not giving me much of a choice here. I'm going to use all of his dex and one of his brawl die.
There we go.
But before he throws his punch, he just says, "I know you don't mean that. And we'll have a talk about that later. But right now, We need to make sure that you don't die. And with that, he'll slug her in the face.
Oh. Sorry, this is like emotional.
So that'd be strength +1 because I got an additional success, so... So you take 1 bashing.
Alright, so
Unless,
42.
well, you can soak it, though, by the way.
Okay. Well, does that help me learn fortitude to soak it, or?
Yeah, this is basically like you training to like soak, you know, to
Oh, stamina.
absorb the damage. Yeah, just your stamina.
Um. Oh, well, fuck.
Well, you didn't see this coming, and he clocks you and you weren't expecting it. Because he gave that like tender moment and then went pow.
Yeah.
But it's still 1 bashing, so it's not that bad. In either case, even Cross can go back and forth for a while, and as they're doing this, he just says, "Do you have a haven set up in the city?"
He asking her?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna say they've been punching each other, right?
Yeah, they're like kind of like boxing.
Yeah. Oh, before she takes another swing at him, she'll go, well, I have an apartment, but I don't ever stay there. By the way, do I need to roll another, like, punch, or?
No, we're just gonna say we're more or less gonna hit. Yeah.
Okay.
And let's go. All right. Where you do spend your days, it's secure, right?
I think so. I mean, most of my days I spend in a basement. And then she punches him really quickly because she knows that he might ask questions about that.
With another kindred.
Maybe.
And he asks that as he throws a jab at her stomach.
Ugh. She'll flinch at that and she'll go, yeah, well, yes, another kindred. And she'll swing it as, probably at his face again.
You probably send his glasses flying across the room.
Oh.
And like, I see. This other place is this kindred's lair.
Yeah.
Do you trust this other kindred?
And she actually doesn't hesitate and says, with my life.
And he'd say, all right. And he'd glance over to Jorgen and say, do you know where this other kindred is?
Jorgen was in the process of picking up his glasses from the floor, and he looks up and shrugs his shoulders. I don't keep track of where she stays. I'm having a lair on the outskirts of the city. I'm usually gone well before she manages to find her haven, as far as I know. Again, lying through his teeth for the sake of Everly. Tried to stand up to Cross.
You need to roll that shit.
Yep, I'm bringing up my dice roller.
Manipulations and subterfuge, right, Dave?
Yep. And I have to go with perception, and I believe it's empathy.
No, my dice roller is just a blank page. Kitten, can you roll 6 dice for me?
Mm-hmm.
What is it tonight?
He has no. Well, he's 1 success.
Yeah. We did essentially the same thing. So he's not sure if he believes you or not, but what he does say is, and he doesn't even pause to think about it really. He just says, well, I'm gonna ask you to find out and make sure it's safe.
I can definitely do that for you.
He goes, thank you.
When he turns his head back around, Eve punches him again. I'm not a little girl anymore. Shit.
And with this, he'd stop after that and he'd say, no, you're a kindred. And other kindred tend to betray each other. I trust the two of you. And I'm sure the two of you can trust each other. But I don't know this other kindred. I don't know if he can be trusted. Besides, and he kind of like crested her chin just a little bit and he says, I want to do everything in my power to make sure what happened in the Elysium won't happen again.
Eve kind of feels bad now. And she'll move in and kind of gently put her arms around him and kind of sigh.
He'll put one arm around her and just kind of like rub her back.
She'll kind of go, well, I guess I could let you meet him sometime.
Right. He goes, after I leave, I want the two of you to keep an eye on each other. Help each other out. Not all kindred can be trusted. Even the ones in the Camarilla.
Trust me, Dad, I know. I've been to Vegas, you remember.
And he says, I think you saw the worst of some of the Camarilla in Vegas. And as he says that, you can kind of hear the weight of that sentence in his voice.
You really know, and that's why I wish you didn't have to go back.
As I know. I know. And you're just saying, now, heal yourself up. I want you to practice over the next few days. Focus on concentrate on focusing your blood to your flesh to make it more resistant, more pliable, yet more stiff.
She'll, she'll nod. I'll try.
Um, right. And he'll well, before I leave here, and when he says here, he kind of motions around the building. Says, he reaches back into the messenger bag that's basically hidden by his trench coat. Like, you wouldn't have known it was there if he didn't pull it out. The strap seemed to blend in very well with his suit, actually. And from the messenger bag, he'll pull out it looks kind of like a black journal. And it does have a lock on it. And he'll hold it out to Bryce.
You mean Jorgen?
Yeah, sorry.
And Jorgen will look at it for a moment before reaching out to accept it.
Alright. And after it's in your hands, he'll drop the key to the lock right on top of the book.
May I ask what this is?
I'm saying it's one of the books I used for as a learning aid when I was learning new rituals. Inside you'll find that there's a newly added space on the inside cover. You can put a tablet into that slot, but it still has some blank pages, and it has a few pages I've written on. Most of them detailing how our clan operates.
And Jorgen will nod. Well, thank you for the honor and the privilege. I hope I can meet up to your expectations.
I'm sure you will.
Jorgen will go ahead and set this book down with the rest of the books he brought with him, putting the key into his front coat pocket.
And he explains very quickly how the code that he used when he wrote in the book. It's very simple. It's simple, but it's not something you might pick up on all that easily because it uses math and word replacements. So if you if you didn't know that and you didn't have some dots in occult, you might open it up and just read it as a journal. In case someone else ever got their hands on it and peeked inside.
And with something that important, Jordan would commit it to memory instead of writing it down. Maybe to be written down later to read a couple times, so his eidetic memory would kick in and take it to heart before burning whatever he wrote it down on.
Okay. And with that, he'll escort the two of you out of the dorm and to a car that he's renting. It's nothing flashy, just kind of like a black sedan. And it's more of a luxury edition, so there's more leg room. The seats are heated. The air conditioners are more centralized to get a better airflow. Nice leather seats. That sort of thing. And he'll drive very carefully and very casually away from the college. And he drives for about 15 minutes before he parks on this dirt road. And there's like a little parking lot, but it's mostly dirt. And there aren't any other cars there. And with that, he'll get out and he'll walk to the trunk of the car, open it up, and he pulls out a rifle and a spare pistol, something like a .45. Then he starts walking away from the road towards a path, not just like a random path that led into a more wooded area, but a path that's marked and has a metal trash can that's right next to it. One of the ones you might see at a park, where it's like metal and concrete. Either of you follow him?
Yes.
Yeah. Eve
Right.
will, she'll get out of the car and follow after him.
Right. And it's not long of a walk, but eventually the path leads to a firing range. And there's some targets set up already. And he'll first pull out the .45 and hand it to Eve, and we'll say, all right. With keeping your finger out of the trigger well, I want you to point at the first target.
She'll take the gun, hold on to it, and she'll probably not very well, but she'll aim as best as she can.
And he'll walk up behind her and wrap his arms around her, and he'll guide her hands into the proper place. And she'll feel him lightly touch one of her feet to move it into the proper place, and his other will lightly tap her leg until she moves it to where it should be. Then he leans back and he pulls her back a bit so she's more centered, and she's looking straight down the sight, saying that that's how you should be standing when you're about to fire.
And she'll let him move her around, and she'll kind of arch her brow a little and go, "Oh, well, I've been doing it wrong."
And I'll say, and I did say he moved both of her hands onto the gun, right?
I think so.
Okay. He said, the only times I've really fired mine is, you could call it one of two things. Trick shooting or panic fire. So when you're firing multiple rounds at multiple targets. And he says, you are only fighting one target. So I want you to look down the sights, take a careful aim, and fire.
She'll actually draw a breath, even though she knows she doesn't really need it.
Mm-hmm.
She'll draw a breath, and then her finger will slip into the trigger well, and then bang, fires.
For this one, I'm going to reduce your difficulty by 1 because you had proper instruction on how to use a firearm. And it's going to be your dex plus your firearms.
Right. Can I raise her dex by 1 because she's focusing? At 1 blood point spent?
You could, but you don't have to.
Okay. I just thought she would do it because it just seems like she would want to impress him. You know what I mean?
Maybe spend a point of willpower then?
For automatic success?
Yep.
Alright.
Okay. I see you have 1 success from your roll, plus 1 success from your willpower.
Mm-hmm.
Total 2 successes. Yeah, you hit the target.
There you go.
Actually, yeah. And he'll instruct you on how to do that a few times, and after you've fired your 3rd shot, he'll hit the button to call the target over, and take a pen out of his pocket. He'll connect the 3 shots together, and he'll say, "All right, this is your shot group, and it's not exactly the tightest, but it's a very good shot group actually. Looks like your sights are off just by a little bit, so you may want to aim a little bit to the right, and he'll then get behind her and look over her shoulder, and with one hand he'll point over to a flag in the distance, and he says, "Do you see that flag?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Do you see which way the wind is blowing?"
Yeah.
The longer the longer the shot you take, the more you're going to need to take that wind into account. You'll need to know which direction it's blowing in and how hard it's blowing. So look for markers like that to tell you.
She'll nod.
And so when you're about to fire, squeeze, don't pull.
Do you want me to try again? She says.
I was like, yes. And this time he puts a different target up, and he hits the button to send it back. And this target looks like, actually, I might be able to find a picture of this type of target. Uh, maybe. Just give me a second here. Aha, yes. So everything's like freezing up.
Okay.
I'm going to assume you said it's okay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
There you go.
Okay.
That's an accurate representation of the target. He says, alright. Try going for the head with this shot. I think that will raise the difficulty back to normal.
Okay. Wow. 4 successes.
You fire and your shot hits dead center of the head.
And she kind of looks across to the big derpy grin.
And he's smiling. Like he has like a proud smile on his face. And he'll just say, if you keep that up, you won't have any problems surviving here.
Oh, I hope not.
And he goes, and with that, he'll just say, when you fire a weapon at a kindred, always aim for the head. To me, you or Jorgen, someone running out here with a shotgun and opening fire on us won't mean much if they don't hit us in the head. And with that, he kind of smirks a little bit and says, you know, it's the only place where anything important actually is.
She'll nod at that.
And with that, he'll glance over to Jorgen and say, I suppose you're probably not going to be firing a firearm, will you?
Jordan will look back up to Cross, and he was busy reading a book that he brought with him from the library, and scratch his head. No more than what little you trained me, but you know, someday I hope my magic would be as good as yours, that I wouldn't need the gun.
And with that, he'll smirk and will say, I don't normally rely on them, though mine has a very powerful enchantment on it. If it fell into someone else's hands, it could be a breach of the Masquerade. So I need to keep an eye on it at all times.
Jordan nodded at this and understand. So, but no, I don't really like weapons. You know me, I'm more of a socialite than a fighter.
And he'll nod, and he'll hold up the rifle to Eve and say, "Let's get you practice with long barrel weapons."
Okay. He smiles.
And he'll say, "Go ahead and take aim at the target."
And she'll take aim at the target again.
And, once she aims at the target, he'll get behind her and wrap his arms around her, and he'll bring the butt of the stock against the fleshy part of her shoulder, and he'll slide her left hand out to hold the grip of the barrel, and he'll move her hands so she's looking straight down the sights. And I said, "This is how you're going to fire if you're standing." It said, and with that, he'll let go of her and take a few steps back and say, "Go ahead and take a shot."
3 successes.
You hit the target, probably like near the center mass. Unless you were aiming for the head.
She was probably aiming for the head.
And yeah, not dead center, but you hit it.
Yay.
And then he goes, "Alright. Now, there are 2 other ways to hold that weapon." And he says, "Go ahead and kneel and use the bottom half of the frame in front of you to rest your elbows on."
And she'll kind of kneel down and she'll position herself the way you instructed.
Yeah. You find that you can rest your left elbow on it, but your right is going to be more or less pointing straight out to the side. And from this, you find it a bit easier to aim. Go ahead and take another shot.
Two successes.
Alright. You clip the side of the head. It's enough that it would have dealt some pretty good damage to the person if it was a human, they'd be dead. Because again, you hit the head.
Yeah.
It's like, and the last time, or the last way to shoot it is, and with this, he'll motion for you to get on the other side of the barrier, the side you're actually not supposed to be on.
And she'll kind of waddle in there.
And he'll lay down and sit and motion for her to do the same.
She will.
And he's like, "Alright, now bring one knee up and keep the other one down." So, like, basically telling her to get in the position like she's going to do the army crawl.
Okay.
And he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now, with your upper half, lean up, and then he said, "Now and use the ground to brace your arm again, and take aim. And fire when ready.
Boom. 2 successes.
Yeah. Your character you've actually found it much easier to shoot from this position than the previous two. There wasn't nearly as much recoil. Or at least it didn't feel like there was as much recoil. And felt like you had a much more control over the weapon.
Wow, that was easy. She says and looks across.
And he's like, he'll stand up and offer her a hand.
She'll accept it and kind of let him help her get up.
Says, right. And he'll point to the .45 and he says, in small, close areas, you're going to use that. And you'd say if you're in a big open area, he motions to the rifle. Why is that?
More spread? He shrugged.
And he walks around to the little place, or the all the windows. He said, "All right, walk over. Try to walk around as if you're keeping your gun out for anyone who might try to attack you."
She'll sort of hold it like the first way he showed her, but she's kind of having a hard time with it while she's like walking around, kind of.
I'm assuming the rifle.
Yes.
The moment she tries to poke it around the corner, he grabs the barrel and pushes it down. And then he puts his right hand over his left arm, pointing his middle and index finger at her with his thumb up as if it was a gun. And it's pointed right at her head.
And she kind of flinches at this. Eek.
And he tugs on the weapon and says, "Do you have full control over this rifle?"
Not really.
And he goes, "My arm is bracing. If I was holding a pistol, it'd be bracing the pistol. I have full control over this pistol." And he's like, "Alright." And he tugs the rifle away and he says, "Try it with the pistol."
She'll take out the pistol that he handed her before the .45 and she'll give it a shot.
Alright. How does she get around the corner?
I don't know, she'll probably have her back pressed to the other side of the wall and then she will sort of turn around it really quickly with the gun in front of her.
And he says, as she turns, he'll put one hand on her shoulder and he'll push the gun from being extended to being close to her torso. And he'll continue letting her turn around that corner. And once she's facing him, he'll bring the gun back up. And he'll say, in that instant, you have full control over that weapon. As you're looking around that corner, it's already pointed at anyone who might be on the other side.
He nods.
And he kind of motions with the rifle and says, the long barrel actually makes it very unwieldy in tight spaces. Do not use this inside a building, unless you're shooting something outside the building.
She nods at that. Alright.
And then he says, and if you're using a rifle like this for a particularly long shot, it's a good idea to have someone around to spot your targets for you, and someone else around to make sure no one creeps up on you.
But I generally don't travel alone. I usually go with my gang. She says.
And that he'll sigh and say, so that's what you're calling it these days.
I actually call it my Scooby Gang. Thank you very much.
He'll just laugh and he'll say, I guess that's more publicly acceptable than a coterie.
She kind of grins. I never really talked to them yet about it being a coterie.
Hold on. Let's say, in your spare time, you may want to take some martial arts classes. In case someone gets close enough where that gun isn't going to do you much good.
Alright. She nods. I can do that, Dad. You don't have to worry. Made it this far, didn't I? She winks.
He'll just smirk and say, alright. The two of you hungry?
Evil nod.
As will Jordan, looking up from his book at the mention of food.
He'll gather the .45 and the rifle, and he'll empty them of their ammo, and he'll do a full clear on them, making sure that there's no way they can be fired. He puts a chamber lock on them, and he does leave the safety on. So there is no way these weapons can fire.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, he'll lead you both back over to the car and put the weapons into the back. And he will take you both hunting.
Yay.
The place he'll take you both is it's a little bit of a kind of like an upscale diner. I don't want to use the word diner, but it's like an upscale bar.
Mm-hmm.
And before going in, he kind of nudges Eve and tells her that she should keep her jacket very tight. And upon going in, it looks like the people in there are use a fashion sense similar to his, and a few of them use fashion sense more like Robin's.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than using seduction, with the people in there, usually a little suave, a little intelligence, and the ability to express yourself goes miles. So, as the three of you hunt, I think, unless either of you want anything, have anything you want to add.
No.
No.
Alright then. Thank you both for playing, and thank you viewers for watching. Have a wonderful evening.